freezing, the first day of the season. Yeah, when it comes to retrieving, old Duke's on his game. A John boat, a couple of mojos. Shoot, they gon' know that we don't play. Well, somebody say amen. Let's give 'em black water baptism.
Welcome to the Simmons Sporting Goods All Things Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Realtree Outdoors, Browning Firearms, and Browning Ammo. Here's your hosts, Caleb Wallace, Cole Barthel, and Kyle Barefield.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 9 of the Simmons Sporting Goods All Things Hunting Podcast. This episode, we're going to talk about some different deer calibers and experiences we've had with them and some stories. Maybe we've lost some deer, not lost some deer, and y'all may agree, disagree, and we may disagree. And on this episode, we brought our friends Jordan and Maddie Wiggins on. Jordan's a ballistic expert, and Maddie just here because we had pizza. He knew we had pizza and there's some cold beer in the ice chest, so he showed up to eat and got roped into a podcast.
100%.
I think we're gonna start off with what do we all killed our first deer with, and roll on into what we hunt now. Kyle's gonna kick us off with that.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna be a rifle hunter's optics, big guns, small guns. But if you're a bow hunter, we're not talking to you tonight. So, but you need to be a rifle hunter, so keep on listening. It'll make you better. I started off, killed my first deer when I was 6 with a 243. I actually shot at one, when I was 5 with a 22 mag, and statute of limitations have long passed, so we're not going to worry about that. But we didn't get the deer. But 243, first deer doe when I was 6. My dad always tells the story that he asked me if I was on her. I said yeah. He said I was aiming right behind her shoulder. I still remember it, but he said shooting right behind her shoulder, hit her right in the butt, dropped her in her tracks. But it was awesome. Still remember it to this day. I sat on top of the deer while he went and got the truck because I was worried about the coyotes getting her between the walk from the deer to the truck and back. So I sat there and waited on her. But then I upgraded to a 22-250 pretty quick and started shooting some deer with that. But during that time, my dad got a custom rifle built, and it was a 300 Weatherby neck down to a 6.5, and it was a heavy gun with a long barrel, had a muzzle brake, kicked like a 22, had a custom trigger, and that was the first time we had got to experience that, and it was lights out. Still got it in my safe today, and do shoot it. What about you, Maddie?
First deer, Jordan and I both shot our first deer with a Browning Micro Medallion 243. I left there. I think we both went. He went to a Remington 280.
Yep.
And so did I. And then I came back up here to Simmons. Got a Browning X-Bolt 270 short mag, and I killed a pile of deer with that thing. I guess I'm in the 6.5 PRC game now, or when I get to go now, my wife, any time I go rifle hunting now, my wife is there, and she's a shooter now, so I guess I'm more of the guide, per se, now.
If you don't know what a 6.5 PRC, keep listening. We're going to get into that, too, later.
Yep, I said 243. I think that most of the kids we grew up with, boy, everybody had a 243.
That was standard issue when you turned 7.
Lincoln Parish, pretty much, kindergarten graduation, you got you a 243. It was about to go down. After that, like I said, went to a Remington 280. That shot for a while. Then kind of as we got older, you grew into the 7 mag. Our dad always shot a 7 mag. Up until just recently, it was a 7 mag. So, everybody wants to be like Dad. So eventually I graduated 7 mag, 300 Win mag, next, as you call it, the Magnamitis. And then
that's Caleb's term.
Yeah, we went down to, I kind of have to stick to 3, kind of had to hold it to 2 or 3 calibers, 6.5 PRC. It's kind of my main carry weapon for the box stand around here. And then 28 Nozzlers kind of become a new favorite of mine, and the old tried and true 300 Win mag for the heavy duty type stuff.
We'll revisit something, but you talk about everybody. We almost all started off with 243, and here now, 30-something years later, the things have come back to that with a new gun that's very similar to a 243 that we'll get into.
So I didn't start with 243. I started off with a 250 Savage, which was also known as a 250 3000 because It was one of the first guns back when the cartridge was developed years ago to go over 3,000 feet per second. Killed a lot of deer with it. Well, I missed a lot of deer with it before I started. Finally, when I got it dialed in and started to kill my first one, then I was hitting them. But there was a lot of misses before that. Then I graduated up to Dad had old 7400 308 Remington Woodsmaster. It's also known as a Hangmaster. A lot of folks said it was the best auto-loading single shot there was. But, hey, when it didn't hang up, I wasn't scared to put the follow-up shot on them. And then about the time I was 12, Dad was shooting a 300 Weatherby, and he let me shoot a deer with his gun. And I was like, Dad, I got to have one. I got to have a 300 Weatherby. And Jordan mentioned magnemitis earlier. My dad had probably the biggest case of magnemitis there was around here, and the 3378 Weatherby had just came out, and he was fiending for one some kind of bad. So when I wanted a 300 Weatherby, it was just that was his excuse to give me his gun and move up to the 3378. And I shot the 300 Weatherby till I was about 30 years old. From the time I was 12 till I was probably 30, and the 645 craze started, and I guess I took a sip of that Kool-Aid, and I've been shooting it ever since. Going into my, I guess, 6th season shooting the Creedmoor, and so far I've had no complaints. Hadn't lost a deer or had any problems with it. I know Jordan is dying to say something over here. He's cutting me the evil eye, the evil look, but and a lot of that's about shot placement. We'll get into that a little later. So, Cole.
Well, I can honestly say I'm probably the only one. I don't know if I've ever even pulled the trigger on a 243 ever. I don't know if I ever have. I started off, when I was 7. And I'll tell the story. I thought I was the youngest. I think everybody here was around 7 except Kyle. He was 6.
I was 6.
Or Caleb was 6 too. Dang. I thought 7 was the youngest at one point. And but when he beat us, I was upset about that. And it was with a 30-06. And then I moved up to a 308 that my dad had and shot it forever. And a 30-30, I forgot about that earlier. I'd shot a 30-30 a little bit when we used to walk the bayou and shoot wood ducks and have a 30-30 on our back.
That was
in case
a deer
we
of
jumped a deer.
opportunity.
You jumped a deer. Heck yeah,
Deer
that was a
of
bonus.
opportunity.
Dang right. But then, and then after that, man, I went straight to a 7 mag forever. 7 mag, a little bit of 270, but a straight 7 mag forever. And then recently, matter of fact, you talk about Kyle's gun, Dad's gun. I believe I shot that one year. I shot your brother's gun one year.
Mm-hmm.
It was similar, and then I shot 300 last year. So, and I really like that 300. I thought I shot a 300 short too, but never shot the 243. We'll get into it later. Not a huge fan of that gun or the 6.5. So we can talk about that a little later.
Caleb gets a lot of people coming in the store, obviously, with
it may be the most sold caliber. It may be the most
yeah.
sold caliber in here. It may
all
be.
disagree.
It is at
on
current.
different
And I
lines.
think we could all talk about, like, the history of if you go to the North Louisiana Deer Camp, I think you're going to see, tried and true growing up, you had pretty much 3 calibers, I'd say, are the most popular. 30-06.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think's killed the most big game animals in North America?
30-06, hands down.
It got to be. Absolutely.
I think a 270 win.
270's got to be
I was
close.
thinking 270, but you may be right on
I
that.
think
270's got to be
When
close.
you get to deer hunting, you probably
You
270.
probably are 270.
As far as North American kills, I think you go with a 30-06, no doubt.
Well, there's one reason for that too, and then, I did not know this until doing the research for this podcast, and probably 99% of rednecks don't know this, but where did 30-06 get its name from?
It's a 30 caliber that was introduced in 1906 is where the 06 came from.
Exactly.
That's
Caleb
pretty cool.
knows it. Who knew? Did y'all know that?
No clue.
So basically, 4 of the 5 of us didn't know that.
And I didn't know till about a year ago. I was reading something and reading a hunting article, and 30-06 popped up and it just hit me like, what does that mean? Where did it come from? And so I Wikipedia'd it.
Yeah, and going back in history, most of it was introduced in 1906, and the U.S. Army made it their rifle caliber of choice back then. And so in World War I, World War II,
Did it move up to? I thought 308 became the sniper gun.
a little bit after that.
A little bit after that.
It was
Okay.
after Carlos
So-
Hathcock was a 30-06 guy.
Okay, I was off on that.
Bonnie and Clyde were killed out, between Gibbsland and Arcadia, Louisiana. But, the Texas Ranger Frank Hamer and 5 other guys, and they shot them with BARs loaded to the max with 30-06.
30-06.
Oh, but
Yeah. Over 100 shells, and that's pretty rough.
Mm.
So
That
You
couldn't
know-
have been pretty.
no,
They didn't have to trail them far, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, not at all. You know, I don't know if y'all ever been done deer dog hunting where you hunt with deer dogs, but I made one of those hunts down in Jackson Parish a couple years back, and every guy at the camp had jacked up Toyota, big CB antenna, and every one of them had a pump, either 30-06 and 270 or one of the two cartridges, and 4 or 5 cases of core locks. And I'm talking about they was slinging lead, son. They go and dog would fire up somewhere. They'd get on them CBs, get to hollering, and all of a sudden there's 30 Toyotas headed to this one cutover, and 40 to 50 rednecks standing on top of trucks, just fired down. And whatever hit that cutover didn't stand a chance.
No aging going on.
No, zero. You probably had a heart attack because there was no aging. We weren't aging anything.
Well, I'll be honest, I've never hunted with dogs. I've been a part of a drive before, but I've never hunted with dogs.
It was a lot of fun, but I don't want it going on anywhere near the Wallace.
No, it never. No.
I killed a doe in front of the dogs one time with a 12 gauge when I was
Well,
younger.
I'm not sure if I killed anything or not because it was like the firing squad. So there's 45 guns went off. You don't know who hit the deer, but the deer is dead.
I learned this at a young age that dog hunting clubs is more about drinking beer and chasing dogs than it is about killing deer.
And NASCAR.
Yeah.
Got a lot of NASCAR.
Yeah, that's what I always said.
Yeah.
The only difference in the deer camps around here is the only difference is who's their favorite NASCAR driver. They're all the same otherwise. Other than that, they're the same.
Oh shoot, we ain't gonna get off on NASCAR tonight. No. Y'all gonna lose me if we do that.
Yeah. Come by Simmons Sporting Goods and check out the new A5 semi-auto shotguns from Browning, the best there is. Now back to the Simmons Sporting Goods All Things Hunting Podcast. Caleb talked about magnum-itis, and I have it, still have it. I'm fighting. I'm doing a lot better job of not. Recently, in the past couple of years, I've killed more deer with really small caliber guns than I have the bigger ones. But I grew up, shooting like I said, my dad's gun. When I couldn't shoot my dad's gun, I had a 7mm 08 that my dad bought me the first year that Browning came out with the A-bolt. And the first deer I shot at it was about 250 yards down a pipeline, and I shot the deer low in the leg because I'd probably been used to shooting that super hot 300 neck down to a 6.5, and that 7.08 dropped out, a lot faster. And my granddad got upset, and he shot a 7 mag, his whole life, Browning BAR, and he upgraded to another BAR. But told my dad, let's go trade it in and get that boy a 7 mag. And so then I started shooting that. But then when I got in high school, it wasn't big enough. Kind of like magnum-itis started kicking in, and I killed a lot of deer with the 300 Ultra, 7 Ultra. I had a 3378 for just a little bit, but that 3378, when you shoot it with a muzzle brake, it will rattle the cavities out of your mouth.
Blow your hat off. If your hat's on forward, not backwards, it'll blow it off the top of your head.
I think we got footage of that. What was your brother's gun?
It was a 7 Ultra mag.
I got footage with a GoPro in front of me. I was laying on the ground shooting a doe in a field one time, and it blew my hat back up when I shot. It blew the leaves. I was laying with a pod down, and it blew everything out and blew my hat up.
Hey, but there's no feeling in the world as good as that concussion when it.
But it blew the deer.
Yeah,
It blew that deer up too.
Yeah. My ears ring constantly because I have damaged my hearing shooting these big overbore guns with muzzle brakes my whole life.
While we're on the 3378, that's another. I made my longest shot on a whitetail with a 3378 at 504 yards, and a lot of luck played into that, I'm sure, because there was no dialing. It was a little redneck windage.
Kentucky windage.
You little Kentucky windage, redneck. Well, I ain't never been to Kentucky, but I am a redneck, so I call it redneck windage. But
I call it guessing.
well, and it was good because we didn't have range finders or anything. And me and a buddy of mine are in a stand one evening, and there's does come out way over there, and he's like, "Man, how far is that?" I was like, I don't, 450, something like that. He's like, "Man, it's a good thing that ain't a good buck. You'd be sick. You'd never hit a deer that far." I said, "You hold your ears and be still." And I shot, and I held right on the deer's back, and whether I moved on squeeze trigger or not, I don't know, but I hit the deer I hit it right behind the shoulder and a little low, and it was a 165 grain nozzle ballistic tip, and when it hit, that bullet just went into pieces and gutted that. The deer ran, and I said, "Man, I think I made a good shot." He's like, "Man, you ain't hit a damn thing way over there. Ain't no way." I said, well, "Come on, let's get in the Jeep and go look." We go look, and he's like, "Man, this is the first time I ever organ trailed a deer before. There was liver and lung and stuff. The deer went about 20 steps." And the next day, another friend of mine had just got a new rangefinders. Had just kind of was like, if you had a rangefinder, that was a big deal.
Yeah, until then, a rangefinder, I thought that was a car.
Yeah,
Everybody drove around
exactly.
Famous people.
Exactly. So he's got. I was like, "Hey, I want you to come with me." So we went back to that spot where I shot the deer and ranged the stand, and it was 504 yards, and
Jeez.
that's the longest I ever shot a deer, and I don't know if I'll ever pull that off again.
You know, like, you know, Magnum-itis comes from before the time of rangefinders, where everybody was wanting to shoot these big, much powder as you can get in one without blowing yourself up, shooting that bullet as fast as possible so you didn't have to guess yardage as much. You know, fast and flat, 0 to 500, hold on their back and kill them.
Not only was there not a rangefinder, there wasn't any custom turrets. Nobody knew anything about mil radians or MOA or holdover reticles or anything like that. It was,
That's right.
you know, hold it and kill it.
Now, you heard me say earlier, Dad shot a 7 mag. I mean, forever.
Yeah.
And it was 140 grain nozzle ballistic tip. He loaded every one of them sitting in our house. It was going to be sighted in at 2 inches high at 100 yards because that was his deal. He had walked that pipeline in Lincoln Parish, and at 100 yards there'd be a piece of flagging tape. At 200 there was another one, 300, and we could get to the property line about 340, 350 yards, and he didn't have one there. And he would get back in that deer stand, and he knew that gun sighted in at 2 inches high at 100 yards anywhere on that pipeline with that 140 grain bullet that he could put where he wanted to hit. And pretty much when you're shooting a deer, people got to remember you're shooting a pie plate for kills almost of the time.
Right.
And, you know, and to him, 2 inches high at 100 yards, he was going to be within that pie plate. And I've watched him shoot them at 325 yards and stone them dead in their tracks like it was, I mean, a bunch of them. And it was, but, you know, I think that all comes from, at that point, you know, it wasn't a whole lot of, hey, how many minutes we got to put on here, how many meals we need to, you know, we need to turn. Not a lot of doping going on back then.
All right, so we're talking about, you know, the progression of guns and optics and stuff. Now, a little bit, I guess this was probably my senior year in high school. I bought a Zeiss Victory scope, 6-24 by 56, and it had mil dots. It was the first scope I'd ever had with mil dots in it. And so, in like Jordan talked about, that 2 inches high at 100 yards is important for somebody that wants to be a long range shooter. You can't, if you sight your gun dead on at 100 yards, the bottom's already started to fall out when you get past 150. So 2 inches high at 100 gives you a little bit, you know, longer shot capabilities. Where in the time before turrets, and I didn't, you know, military snipers, they would dial up stuff, but
you couldn't pull your Kestrel out of your pocket and check your
that's
windage and your elevation and your humidity and all of that.
But this scope, the mil dots, when I was turned up on full power at 100 yards, the distance between my crosshair and my first mil dot was 2 inches. You know, and then 2 inches between every other dot. So when you multiply that by your yardage, you know, at 200 yards it was doubled. So
it was 2 minutes
inches.
of angle.
Yeah, it was 2 minutes of angle, exactly. And so I took that scope and I had it on an ultra mag.
Yeah, so was it a mil?
mil
I
dot.
hate to stop you, but was it mil radians or was it minutes of angle?
It was German, so it was actually in centimeters. But for some reason, I don't know what the term was, but when you shot it, and this was
you
just
know
from,
what it equated
exactly.
to.
I know what it equated to from trial and error. When I
tell,
shot it,
tell Jordan to shut.
Yeah.
Okay, tell Jordan
when
to
I
shut.
shot it at
We're trying to
100
get
yards,
this
and then
on.
I covered
Me and
up
Jordan's
the-
over here looking at each other going, he has no idea what he's talking about.
Hey,
Maddie's over
well,
going,
us
shut up, let him
redneck-
tell a story.
Yeah, we're trying to listen.
when I covered
I
up
was
the
riding with
bullseye.
it,
Me
you
too.
know?
When the bullseye of
I
the
didn't
crosshair, that checkered down 2 inches was right there at that first dot. So anyway, I had sighted that gun out to 500 yards to know which dot to aim with from zero, you know, from 100 all the way out to 500. And so y'all remember doe days in Louisiana. Well, so this is
Best day of the year.
this is frowned upon, and statute of limitations are long gone. But at my club, we didn't have many bucks because they had all been killed, because the old timers, if you saw a buck, you killed him. So when doe day rolled around, we were taking orders
Hammered down.
like, who needs a doe? Because not everybody was going to see a doe, but if you did, you just started shooting them. And I got up about 60 feet up in a pine tree on a 1-year-old cutover where I could see, it was probably 2 years old because it had a little growth underneath. And I could see a long way. And I started seeing does. And, you know, I would, at this time I did have a rangefinder. And so I'd range them 350, first dot, boom, dead. 400, second dot, boom, dead. We called this Red Friday because of Black Friday. Because instead of going shopping on Black Friday, all the guys, they went deer hunting.
Killing.
That's right. And so after I'd shot the doe, you know, in a real quick time, I looked behind that doe, and the biggest buck I'd ever seen in my life is standing there looking at me 350 yards, wondering why I just killed the doe that he was behind. He'd come over a hill. And I remember to this day, I put that first dot down below the crosshair right on his white patch, and I shot, and the deer disappeared. And it's all I could see was his neck up, you know, in the brush. And I shot, and I thought, no way, he disappeared. I went down there, and sure enough, I did not hit the deer. But I ended up killing the deer, luckily, a month later, and I had hit the deer right at the base of his ear, and his ear was hanging off when I killed him.
Oh, wow.
So, but just a cool story. But that's what we used, you know, the mil dots for, and that's before Nikon come out with the BDC reticle and all that kind of stuff. But you know, now, you know, Caleb will probably get in this more. Things have changed, and now we've got target turrets.
I mean, I've got a custom turret on my Swarovski on my 6.5 that I'm actually zeroed at 100 yards, and it rolls on 150, 200, 250 all the way out to 700 yards is where I run out of elevation to dial it. And I mean, I'm not going to shoot a deer that far, but it's fun in the spring to, you know, it's fun in the spring to go, you know, ring some steel out there.
Oh, I bet if wind's right and he's standing out there and you can dial to him, you're going to shoot at him, though.
It depends on the deer. And I mean, that goes back into caliber. I got some paperwork here that shows different energies per yard line on different calibers and all that. And I'm not going to shoot a deer past 500 yards with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
I think that kind of gets into what I mean. This is a long rocky road. It's called ethics.
Yep.
And I think you have to, you know,
100%.
And I think there's a lot to be said about arguing about which caliber's better, and you know, it kind of gets to be a, you know, it's in a matter of opinion. It always is. At the end of the day, calibers still feel are irrelevant if you make a well-placed shot. You have to know your equipment. So, I mean, yeah, you're right, Caleb. I think a lot of the times we get to talking about, hey, I can shoot out to 1,000 yards out of the box, some of these manufacturers and all say. And, you know, all that being said and done is if you're not practicing and doing it,
sure,
you probably shouldn't be trying it.
Your equipment
on
might
animal.
can, but you can't.
Your optics play a
human
big part
error.
in that.
Optics is our dad always told us growing up, like, we might have had to eat buying a sausage for supper, but he was going to have a Swarovski scope. And growing up, he would tell, and he still to this day. When I called and told him I was coming to do this earlier, he said, all you need to know is I'd rather have a good scope on a lower quality rifle than have a fine custom rifle with a sorry scope.
Well, I heard Caleb tell that to numerous customers in there.
I do.
Like,
you know, we always start
That's a great
with,
gun if you want to buy that gun, but
absolutely,
listen, you don't have to have that, but you need this.
I always start with, what do you want to spend?
And it has nothing to do with money.
What do you want to spend total? Like, where do you want to be? And some people don't care. Some people say, hey, I want to be 1,500 total. Some want to be 1,000. I'll tell them, if you want to be 1,000 total,
that tells you right there what kind of gun.
If you want to be $1,000 total, let's get a $300 to $400 gun and put a $600 to $700 scope on it.
Absolutely.
And you're way better off.
Absolutely.
Way better off.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've got my everyday gun that I hunt with now is retails for $800, but I got a $2,200 scope on it.
Well, just think when you go hunt. I'll tell you this. We'll get back on that, but optics plays such a big part. Have you ever forgot your binos when you went to the deer stand? It's the most miserable hunt in the world.
I feel naked.
Like, you can look through your scope and stuff, but it's like miserable. Like, I don't even want to be here because I can't see what's going on. I can't see anything, especially when you can see a long way.
Yeah.
Kyle and I went this year, and we got down the road, and I mean, we turned around and went to the camp. We were already late, but Kyle was not going without his binoculars.
No. And when he puts those binoculars,
It looks like a bush hog has hit him two times.
A bear bit him.
But
There's a story. He can tell you a bear bit the binoculars. You won't believe it. A bear bit the binoculars in Waverly, Louisiana. A bear bit the binoculars while we were trailing a deer. He'll tell you the story.
And I've dropped them a million times.
Yeah.
But
run over them.
But with those Leica binoculars, he puts them up. And every time he puts them to his eyes, he sees an animal.
I can find
No.
something.
This is Corey will tell you this. We got another buddy. Like he sees, and Corey's like, "Oh shoot!" He's putting his binoculars up. He sees a deer. He sees something. And no, he don't see nothing every time, but he thinks he does every time he puts them to his eyes.
And things work, man.
They are good.
And he's had them forever, and they are bad. But
There is something to be said for high quality glass. I mean, that's whether that be binoculars, whether it be spotting scopes, whether it be rifle scopes. There's something to be said for no matter what gun you shoot. A good scope is a must, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. Well, and the good binoculars too. And a lot of people think that, well, I'm not using my binoculars to actually shoot the deer. Why do I need a high quality?
To know
if
your
you're
deer,
in your
learn.
binoculars all the time, a lot, and where I can see a lot, the entire hunt, I'm in and out of my binoculars. Look down this lane, look down that lane, look across this field, whatever. And the better your quality of glass is, the less eye fatigue you get. And you ever looked at we've all looked through a decent pair of binoculars or a cheap pair of binoculars or whatever. You sit there and look for a minute, and then you got to pull your head out of them and turn and blink for a minute and kind of let your eyes readjust. Well, the better glass you get, you don't have to do that.
no, and it will help you become a better hunter. It will let you learn more about your deer and age your deer from a lot further. They're not all going to come out at 50 yards where you can tell everything about them. But if they're at 250 or 400 and they're walking into your food plot or whatever it may be, or your corn pile, whatever, you will know your deer better. You'll know what deer that is.
That's right.
And I think the progression, here's something else that's another whole aspect of that, is the progression of the white-tailed deer hunter in North Louisiana per se, in America really, is now I've going, when we were all kids, I mean, we talked about it a while ago. There was one morning, boy, we busted a spike. I think you killed a spike, I killed a 3-point, and Dad had hammered some probably 3-year-old 8-point.
Yeah.
And
Y'all
we
were
were,
fired
I mean,
up.
High on the hog, man.
excited. We were heroes. I mean, we
Yeah.
were neighborhood
Loved
heroes
it.
when we got home.
Absolutely.
And I think as it's gone by, I mean, when I got into the college area and you started getting, hey, you got friends that are kind of outside your little local hunting area, you start meeting people from other parts of the state. We had a buddy, and he had a hunting camp. And if the deer didn't score 135 inches, it was a fine. And it was more money than me and my brother had to pay so we were real careful. So my dad always wanted that good scope because, boy, had to get you 15 minutes in the morning
15
and
more
15
minutes.
minutes in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
That's when
and
the big deer move.
and that's when he's
That
going to
time
move.
counts.
And that's got a lot of
100%.
people in trouble. But when you go to these high-dollar clubs and these people that are really on strict management programs now, it's not as much even for the 15 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes at night. It's almost like you got to have used one to appreciate it. I'm shooting a Collis 624i. I've got a couple of them, and I've got all of the data because I'm a gun guy. I've taken the velocities and I've taken all of that, and I think we're going to get into that in a minute when it comes to the new age technology stuff.
So while we're on new age technology, all the new age product, y'all, I'm gonna sell Jordan a pair of these before we leave here tonight. I
I know it.
guarantee you.
And he's
So-
probably right.
Swarovski has come out with, and I mean, this is absolutely game changing to me, in my opinion. It's the EL Range TA. A TA stands for Tracking Assistant. So the EL ranges have been around for a while. They've been a great seller, always a great product, good glass. So a few things they've done, they moved their range finding button to the right instead of the left, which was always a big complaint with the older EL ranges. The older EL ranges also would not range anything within 35 yards. So a lot of your bow hunters,
Didn't want them.
no, they were out. So this is minimum of 10, maximum of 2,200 as far as range goes. It also, there's an app that goes with this, iPhone, Android, whatever. The EL Range TA app from Swarovski, you can load all of your ballistic information in there and, put it, whether you want your holdover when you range something at 500 yards, and it's got all of your info, your zero, where you're zeroed, what grain bullet you're shooting, your speed,
Ballistic coefficient.
ballistic
bore height.
coefficient, sight height above bore,
Yeah.
average temperature, altitude, humidity, everything you need to calculate a shot. And so once you put all your info in there, so when you range something and it's 500 yards, it'll give you your holdovers, and you can set it however you want to. You can set it in mils, minutes of angle, inches, however you want to set it. It'll give you your holdover. My favorite part about this is in the app, in the Swarovski app, there's a map. It saves your last three places, last three things you range, it saves in the app. And so how many times have you shot a deer?
It's pretty
And
cool right here.
How many times have you shot a deer and you made a good shot, or feel like you feel good about it, feel like you made a good shot, but you go down there and you can't figure out where the deer was standing. You don't find any blood. You don't run around across any hair,
you
tracks, or
think
kickouts.
you think you've got that great landmark, that tree,
and you get down there,
and
nothing looks the same
Happens
or
every year.
anything like that. All right, so if you range that
You
deer,
send somebody back to the stand.
oh yeah, somebody goes back to the stand, or you tell somebody to sit. Yeah, where you go back. Oh yeah,
I was
hand
that guy.
signals.
No, I was the
everything
guy
else.
on the lane.
So that's happened to me. I don't know how many times.
Every-
It happens every year.
year. I did it
a
last
couple
year.
times
To
a
this
year.
day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with these, you range your deer, you shoot. Let's say the deer runs, you feel like you made a good shot. You pull up your Swarovski, your map in your Swarovski app, and you walk right to where that deer was standing because your last 3 places that you were, you ranged are saved in your app.
And I know that's not for everybody,
Like a
but
GPS?
if anybody,
Yeah. It
It's like on Google Map, like it's using your
yeah,
map
it drops
location.
a pin.
right
It
where that
drops a
deer
pin
was,
there.
and you
Right
probably as soon
where-
as you range, you're probably about to shoot. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right where
Your wife
wherever
might be able
you're.
to track you with those.
Yeah.
Things. Better not leave them in the truck.
I kind of feel like that's like that Garmin
Matt-
Live scope.
Maddie's
got
got to find a negative somewhere.
That's kind of. I feel like that's like that Garmin Live
Well,
scope. All
everything's
these crappie
positive.
guys,
What's
the
the
white
negative?
perch fishers.
What?
That's kind of cheating, isn't it?
The negative is they kind of pricey. But
Yeah,
you
a
get
little
what
bit.
you pay for.
You're
That goes
right.
back to.
that's why I'm saying it wasn't for everybody, but
Yeah.
it is for some
Hey,
people.
It's the top. I think it's some of the top glass there is on the market.
Oh, yeah,
in
no
the
doubt.
If
Swarovski.
not
and,
the top, yeah.
Jordan mentioned he uses a Collis, which is a Swarovski product. That's Swarovski glass and a Collis scope. But I mean, the fact that because I hate losing a deer.
Yeah.
You hit on ethics a while ago, Jordan, and you make a bad shot. Because to me, this isn't like cheating as far as the hunting deal goes. This helps with your recovery.
That's right.
You've already made the shot. The deer's
It
dead.
doesn't matter if it's a doe
You,
or
whatever
what.
it takes
You
to
just hate
recover
lose a
him,
deer.
you need to be able to recover him. And starting out where that deer was and finding some blood or something to get on him that's the best way to get started. And with this, you can pinpoint exactly where he was standing.
Where everybody hunts, especially where it's mud everywhere, especially by the time rifle season's rolling, December, and so it is tough to find exactly where
If
a
you're
deer
hunting
was.
Cole's place, good luck finding the deer, the set of tracks that was the deer
Well,
you shot. 'Cause
exactly.
there's 5 million more.
Absolutely.
No.
Well, that's at my place. There's hog
Well, not
wallers
anymore
and-
because Jordan and Maddie and Kyle all shoot more than I do. So.
But anyways, there's more info on the EL Range TAs. They're up live on simmonsportinggoods.com. We'll do a short YouTube video on them, and there's also some information on Swarovski's YouTube channel.
Does
You know,
Swarovski have a lifetime warranty? On the
yes,
binos?
Swarovski
They do.
does have. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do a little research on this because there is a lifetime warranty on all Swarovski products. However, I don't know about the electronics, what their warranty. A lot of companies' electronics are 5 years. I thought I was gonna have all my points covered because I knew somebody was gonna ask me a question and I couldn't answer.
Well,
But
the reason why I'm getting at is if you're gonna buy a good pair of binoculars and it's gonna last a lifetime,
absolutely.
buy.
So
best
the Swarovski scope, that's the 300 Weatherby I was talking about earlier. The scope that's on that gun, Dad bought when I was 6 years old. It's a Swarovski 3-12 to 56.
Habit.
Havoc, that's exactly right. And about 5 or 6 years ago, it started clouding up a little bit. I sent it back to Swarovski. They went completely through it, cleaned it internally, refilled it with nitrogen, sent it back to me. It cost zero. Cost nothing.
I did the exact same thing on my gun,
Our
and it
dad
probably
did
wasn't
too.
even nothing wrong with it.
That's
It was
pretty
just
good.
had it
That's
my
good to
whole
know.
life basically, and thought it's time to send it back and let them clean it. And they-
It's a prime example of you get what you pay.
And
100%.
when you buy a brand like that, that's a lifetime purchase. A lot of
Absolutely.
times. I mean, it really is. And you think, God, that's expensive. You're right, but especially if you're bringing kids up and or whatever.
Yeah.
I
Dad
mean, how many things did we get passed down to that wasn't that quality?
Man, Dad told me he's got the same 3-12 by 56 Habit. He bought it from Jeff Simmons not long after Jeff had opened the store. He
When
said it was a little.
just up there
gas
with the counter.
station.
I
He said
remember,
it was a
dude, I
little bitty
remember when
one
it was
counter.
a
It
It was
corner
about
in there. You
350 square
And
feet.
it was
walked in the front door and the gun
and
rack was in the corner.
He was
and
trying
the-
his
in the
best to
back
think,
left.
and the best he could come up with, it was somewhere between 89 and 91
Yeah.
that he bought that scope. And it needed, I mean, years take a toll on stuff, and it needed to be refurbed. Not 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And he sent it back to Swarovski. I think the eyepiece rubber or something was starting to kind of come unglued or
The
something.
eyepiece came out.
And he sent it back, and they refurbed it. Didn't charge him a deal. Said it was this is not a Swarovski plug by any chance, but I mean,
Yeah.
once again, you get what you pay for and all that stuff.
Well, I mean,
What-
Leica may get mad at me, but my binos that we laugh about, they have been through hell, but I did try to send them back a year ago, and they told me they can't. They're too far gone. They're not going to fix them.
Now,
it's not a Swarovski plug. I mean,
I'm
we
not
gotta
going to
shoot-
blame
we got-
Leica for not taking your binos
But
back.
now-
Yeah, I thought I was
I gotta
joking. A
buy
bear
a new
really
pair
did
now.
bite
If you
his
saw
binoculars.
his binos, I probably wouldn't take them back.
Hey,
either.
he pulled up the other day in a new truck. I said, "What'd you do with your old truck?" Man, I traded in. I said, "Where in the hell did you?" Because I'm doing business there. If
Yeah.
they gave you, and they gave him good trading value.
A great
for it.
trade-in.
Yeah.
At the COVID specials, what he got.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Our-
did.
But back to the the quality of equipment that you buy and hunt with. Our dad always told us to buy a good one and buy it once.
That's it.
And I
Or
think
you
that
can buy a
range
sorry one and buy it every year.
Yeah, and
Same thing goes with
and
clothing and all.
everything.
All your
yeah.
gear. All your gear.
Especially when it comes to scopes, it's if it causes you to miss a 170-inch deer or versus kill that 170-inch
What
deer.
amount of money is worth
Oh,
everything you work
it's
for?
worth-
Because how many times
Yeah.
do you get opportunity to kill? Let's just be real sick. 155 plus inch deer, 150
Absolutely.
plus deer. I
Right.
mean, let's just be real. I'm talking to everybody.
Hey,
That's hard
the
to
Piney
do.
Woods here, 135,
Yeah,
140,
exactly. I
man.
shoot 'em
That's an
every
awesome
day.
deer. Why would you jeopardize? Why
No.
would you spend all of your money on food plots, leases, camps,
Tractors.
food plots, corn, and jeopardize the whole thing when you get there because you spent all that money on everything and you brought crap
Yeah.
equipment.
And it's not just Swarovski, just because they are high end.
Oh.
But man,
There-
I mean,
there's a
Zeiss,
case
there's
full
a
of
Vortex,
awesome
Leupold.
optics out
that-
there.
Leupold
Yeah.
A lot of good
just,
optics
just go
companies.
toward the higher end, the better. And I'm not saying the most expensive one, but don't buy the cheapest, smallest one you can, because man, you will regret it.
Yeah.
Big time. Bad glass.
George got a
Just-
story about one of his best friends. They killed a big deer one morning. He had to borrow Jordan's gun.
Sure did. Matter of fact, it was the first 150 plus inch deer I'd ever been a part of in my life. My lifelong best friend. He had I think it was it was a cheap,
Nikon scope.
Tasco or something, just a cheaper scope, and it was fine. You know what? He killed a lot of deer with it.
Sure.
He
Yeah.
killed a lot of deer with it.
Not
But
bad
that morning,
shit,
I were sitting in the same box stand. We were 16 years old, and it was a Zeiss. It was a Zeiss Davari 3 to 12 by 56 on that old Remington 280 I was telling you about.
Good
Good
scope.
scope.
And we got in there, and a good valued scope for
Yeah.
what you get. And we got in there to stand that day, and this deer walks out. Well, both of our guns are sticking out the window. And I'm telling him, buddy, that is a big deer. And he's going, I don't think he's wide enough. And I'm like, man, that is a giant. You need to shoot that deer. And he says, man, I only get one deer over here at this place. I don't think that's it. And I hand him I'm like, man, look through my scope. He's like, my scope's kind of fogged up on me. I'm like, well, look through mine. And I hand him the gun, and he looks at it, he says, oh my goodness, that is a big one. And he dumps the safety off and shoots the deer with my gun. Kills a 158-inch deer. I mean, a giant. I mean, a beautiful Louisiana deer.
And he,
They may have walked off
that
in
would
the
have walked
woods.
off because his scope was fogged up.
you know your deer, you learn your deer. I
Yep.
mean, it's a big difference.
And did you talk about the durability and the toughness? Like, our dad had a car wreck one time, and he had two guns in his back seat. One was that Swarovski, and one was somebody else's gun, fixed Redfield or something. But
Oh, wide view.
he said he
TV
got
screen.
hit. Yeah, he said he got hit so hard that on the outside of the car you could see the barrel indentions.
Oh God.
And
In Monroe.
shot the guns. I don't think they never did get the lesser scope right. He said the Swarovski never moved.
Oh,
It was still on.
that's pretty impressive.
Literally, it put an indention in the sheet metal of that old Honda car
That's
he was
crazy.
in, and that Swarovski was still on when they went and shot it. It's just a testament to buying good stuff.
It really is. And not saying buy the most expensive thing out there, but do your homework. Ask these guys, especially up here and other places, and your buddies, and read up on it and get quality optics.
Hey, come see me at Simmons Sporting Goods. I'll make sure you don't
Absolutely.
buy a cheap one.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can help you with that.
And we realize not everybody can. Not everybody listening to this podcast can go break off $2,000 for some binoculars. But
I got 24 months same as cash, dude.
okay.
Monthly.
Well, if you're hearing that out there, come on by.
I did hear him saying this is
24 months, same as cash.
This is the truth, though. He will ask you how much you want to spend. They're not trying to put you in something to break your
I'm
bank.
not. I want to
Hey,
know
what ballpark are you
where you
in?
wanna be on
and we
price.
want to try to. We want to try
And
to
let's
meet
get
your
you
needs
the
there.
best thing for what are you doing with it? Where are you hunting? What do you want to spend? And let's get you the best thing for you. And then when you get into calibers and stuff, a lot of people are dead set on what they know. It's like Jordan said, Mr. Ronnie, his dad always shot a 7 mag. That's what he knows. It works. He's comfortable with it. And, that's a lot of caliber selection. For me, is somebody that knows something or comfortable with something, or if they got it in their head that they want something, you probably ought to go with it, because if you don't, you're going to end up wishing you had of, or if
Right.
you lose a deer, you're gonna blame it on the caliber. And
How many bad shots have been made out there, and people say, "Oh, this that mag, it ain't no good."
oh my gosh, I mean,
well,
I
shot
hear
a
it.
tooth off, you know.
Like I'm telling you, you can get on the wonderful world of Facebook on some of these Louisiana deer hunters groups and stuff and start reading about, everybody giving their 2 cents. There's a lot of people that don't research anything, that try to get on there and tell you what you ought to do. I mean, that's obvious. But I think, when it comes down to it, find something that you're comfortable with, like just something that you practice with, something that you're comfortable with. No, it doesn't have to be a $5,000 setup. It's just something that you're efficient,
not at all.
that you're with, and I think that's kind of the where we seem that everybody wants the bigger and better, and we all fall victim to that. As
that's right.
Everybody wants bigger and better, and they don't even really know how to use what they got.
And there's, like we said, there's been a lot of deer killed with a cheap rifle, with a Walmart Tasco on it, and slinging
Mixed
a Remington
4-power
Core-Lock
Redfield,
or whatever. And I guess y'all want to take a little break, and we'll come back into some calibers, and Jordan
we got some numbers.
Yeah, I
we
got
wanna
some.
share
I
with
got a
y'all.
little
We
homework.
won't go too
I
much
got some
longer, but we
notes.
got some numbers we want to share.
Jordan's going to tell me why I need to change calibers and all that sort of thing. So
We can all laugh at Caleb.
everybody can laugh at me. That's fine. That's fine. We'll take a quick break. Be right back.
Come by Simmons Sporting Goods and check out the new models of the X-Bolt rifle from Browning. The best there is. Now back to the Simmons Sporting Goods All Things Hunting Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to get back into this rifle ballistics thing. Jordan's been wanting to argue with me and tell me why I don't need to shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor and what I do need to shoot. So we'll let you go ahead, and then Cole's going to get on me, and then Maddie, you got something to say about me too? Maddie's on my side.
I'm all good.
For whatever that's worth. So
I
go ahead.
do
Go
own
ahead,
one.
Jordan.
No,
I don't
hey,
shoot
look,
much.
I own one. I own a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah.
Kind
An
of
expensive one. I sold it to you.
I'm kind of ashamed to admit
with
it.
a good scope on it
We've
too.
gone,
I didn't let him buy a
look,
cheap
6.5
scope either.
PRC, we talk about it. The 6.5 has kind of become the belle of the ball. Everybody wants a 6.5. I bought that 6.5 Creedmoor. I was so proud of that thing. I really bought it on a whim. I didn't research it. I got home and started looking in my reloading books and looking at all my ballistic charts and everything. I said, it's the same thing as that Remington 260 I got in there. And it won't even, I can't even load as much powder in that. Right. It was developed in my opinion. I mean, I think it was, I don't know, that's opinion. It was developed as a long-range paper punching PRS type round back in the day. It is a hellacious ballistic coefficient, and it is the one I've got. I think most of them, it is a tack driving machine.
Well, explain the difference.
I
between
mean,
the PRC and or if you want to get into it now within this, because in the Creedmoor and the PRC, so we'll know.
I mean, to keep it on a basic level, you're shooting the same projectile. I mean, we talk about 308, 30-06, 300 Win Mag. You're shooting the same caliber bullet, a 30 caliber bullet. Mm-hmm. Where the difference comes into that is going to be where you got your case volume for how much powder you're putting behind it, pretty much. Plain and simple.
So I got, like I said, I've done a little homework here. There's a cool little tool. Hornady has a ballistic calculator that's, it's free. You don't have to download it or anything. You just pop it up on your desktop, and you put all your variables in, your ballistic coefficient, your zero, your sight height above bore, blah blah blah, all your important info, and you can print out a velocity chart on your round, and it gives you your come up in MOAs, your come up in meals, your foot pounds of energy, your velocity per yard line. You can do it all the way out to 2,000 yards. So I took some of our calibers of topic here, and I found the factory ammo that had the highest ballistic coefficient, and without getting too technical there, the higher the ballistic coefficient, the better the bullet's going to hold its velocity, and the better it's going to fight against wind drift. So your aerodynamics.
It's basically the definition of the ballistic coefficient is it's the bullet's ability to correct itself in flight.
Correct.
So it's going to be less resistant to wind draft or wind drag, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to be more prone to carry energy further as it's centrifugal. Basically, it's going to be a tighter spin pretty much. I mean,
I wasn't going to get into that. He didn't pull out the word centrifugal force over
I mean,
there.
it's just.
he
Anyways.
getting excited.
Hey, I'm fixing that. I'm finna have a line
man.
go straight to his office over at State Farm. It's like when somebody calls asking these questions, Simmons Sporting Goods, I'm gonna
just
transfer
put
them to
him
the.
on the line.
Let me get you with my ballistic specialist.
Yeah, buffet specialist, maybe,
All right,
not
so-
ballistic.
All right, so 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC. These are both off of the Hornady Precision Hunter 143 grain ELDX. Like Jordan said, it's the same. It's the same bullet, same weight, same everything. And I did these charts on a 200-yard zero. So with the 6.5 Creed, so muzzle velocity of the Creedmoor is 2,700. Muzzle velocity of 6.5 PRC is 2,960. Now this is factory ammo straight off the Hornady box there. So at a 200-yard zero, Kyle mentioned setting everything 2 inches high at 100. I go for a 200-yard zero when, with the technology we have these days. Back then, 2 inches high at 100 was a good deal. Which with the 6.5, you're 2 inches high at 100, and that puts you dead on at 200, 8 inches low at 300. So with the PRC, you're only 1.5 inches high at 100, dead on at 200, and 6.4 inches low at 300. So
Look at the 5. What's it doing at 5?
from 0 to 300, you're pretty tit for tat. And we'll talk about foot-pounds of energy here for a second. What I did, state of Colorado Wildlife Fisheries states that threshold on killing a whitetail is 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, and for an elk is 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. Now, can you kill it with less? Sure,
Yeah,
but
best of the list, they say 1,000 for an elk, but you
I'm
need
like,
over 1,000.
You know,
to
me and
kill.
Maddie were talking earlier. If you're gonna go spend $6,000 to $10,000 on an elk hunt or more,
Right.
I want to have the most foot-pounds of energy there. I don't want to get out there and
You
pay
can't kill him too much.
Most of dead is
impossible.
dead, but I want him to be deader than dead. And so,
We're
you
not
know,
built for the mountain environment.
no, sir, not at all, not at all.
Well,
Yeah.
And so and you get a lot of these places. You draw blood, you're done. Whether you find it or not, you pay your money, get on a plane, come home with a tag sandwich.
That blood rule.
Yeah,
Great,
and
man.
so all right, so we get on down here. So at 300 yards, the Creedmoor 1,656 foot-pounds of energy, where the PRC is 2,017. So still enough energy with both to kill an elk or whitetail. So we go down to 500 yards. 500 yards, the Creedmoor is 45 inches low with 1,300 foot-pounds of energy. So you're below, I guess, Colorado Wildlife Fisheries threshold to kill an elk, but still good enough for a whitetail. Where your PRC at 500, you're only 36 inches low. And I'm gonna tell you that 9 inches at 5 yards, especially with a MOA scope, that's a good many clicks you're having to do, or an extra couple holdover lines or whatever. And then your energy, your energy with 6.5 PRC at that distance is 1607. Still good for an elk. So basically, with the Creedmoor on an elk, you're killing the elk at somewhere between 300 and 400. With a whitetail out to 700, you're still at 1,000. Then with the PRC, with the elk, you still got killing energy out to 500, in between 500 and 600 yards, and a whitetail out to 800 yards. Or honestly, the PRC at 900 yards is 984, which I'm sure is plenty of energy to kill a whitetail deer.
In 2008, I went to Montana, actually on an elk hunt, and we got there, and the guy there basically looked at us and he said, you know, I don't know why you Southerners feel you need to bring these cannons, 300 Win Mags, what we had, shooting a 180 grain bullet or a 200 grain bullet, whatever you're shooting. That guy's hunted Montana all of his life. He deer hunted with a 22-250, shot mule deer or whitetail, and he elk hunted with the 25-06. And he said, I don't understand it. Well, follow up the next year, he comes down to Louisiana with us.
Down to the pine woods.
Down to the briar thicket capital of the world. And he gets here, and the first thing he says is, A, I've never seen so many trees, and B, I now know why y'all shoot 300 Win Mags at whitetail deer, because I don't want to trail one through that briar thicket right there either.
No.
And
That's right.
you shoot one out there.
You ain't gonna find one all the time with
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And in the mountains out there in the west, in the plains, the Midwest, you can see a deer run off for 2 miles.
That's what I was about to say.
You know, down here, they run off the lane, you'll never see them again.
And that goes back to,
a lot of times we put it right. We'll get in shot placement, but it still a 300 right in the shoulder because I don't, especially late in the evening, I don't want him running.
No.
You mess up meat, but you like, golly,
Yeah,
I
so
don't want him running.
talk about that. Where do you shoot a deer at?
I'm
know,
shooting,
personally.
I'm going in the shoulder because I want to break that sucker down. I want him to drop right there. I can pull the Can-Am right up there and throw him in the back and go.
And see, I've developed not a bad habit, but it is a habit because I grew up shooting that 120 grain bullet that would ballistic tip that would explode when it hit something. It doesn't matter how hard I aim at the deer's shoulder. That last millisecond before that gun goes off, it always moves back just a little bit behind their shoulder, just for that reason.
Hey,
and so I shoot them behind them. They run off, and I have to trail them.
Put it behind that shoulder, boy, and squeeze that trigger. I've heard it 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
Put it right there behind that shoulder, boy, and squeeze that trigger. Deep breath and squeeze. Look, shoot it behind the shoulder. You're catching mega vitals. We talked earlier. You got a pie plate. Now, when you become efficient or proficient with your equipment, I'm a shoulder shooting dude. If I can shoot them in the shoulder and drop them right there, so I don't have to go trail them, more power to it. You start running the risk when you shoot high shoulder for missing.
A big deer, I would like to put him down and break that shoulder. I really would, because you're gonna get on him, and a big deer, you take a chance of shooting him in the gut. If you pull a little bit, I mean, it's a person. That's just a personal preference, and he can run a long ways if it's a big, strong, healthy deer in the guts.
Absolutely.
And
I'm not saying a lot of times you can find them gut shot, but it ain't easy, man, and it's not easy. And it's usually finding.
And it's
deer.
not fun.
No. It's not. And it takes a lot of people, and the next day, a lot of times to find a gut shot.
A lot of times in the afternoon, unless it's a deer I'm going to put on my wall, I ain't squeezing the trigger in the afternoon because I'm trying to get to the grill and the football game and the ice chest.
That's the problem.
I don't want to fool with that deer in
is.
the afternoon. I am a morning. If I'm shooting a doe, we are morning hunting that doe.
So I guess the negative to shooting these big overbore cartridges, that Magnum-itis guns, is the recoil and the noise. So now the trend now is going to these smaller caliber type guns, the 6.5 Creedmoors, that you don't have to shoot with a muzzle brake. You don't have to build them in real heavy guns, so you can tote them. They're easy to tote. I have the gun that I've killed more deer with up until this past year. So this past year I shot a new gun that I'm about to introduce, but the 2 years before that, I shot a 6mm Creedmoor, which is nothing but a 243. That's got it's because these bullet companies are making these longer, heavier, better ballistic coefficient bullets. But it's a 243 shooting that bullet, and I've killed the fire out of some.
And I honestly would get mad. I would be like, Kyle, why? I would get mad. He's like, it will be fine. And he would put it in the shoulder. I saw him do it and I know you can say Texas deer, this, that, but I've seen him do it Louisiana deer. I've seen him do Texas deer and probably Oklahoma deer.
Yep.
But I still like, Kyle, why are you doing that? You just kind of blow my mind. Like there's a 300 and a whatever in the back seat, and he pulls out that 6mm, and I'm like,
and no recoil, no.
And it's light,
and it's super light,
and we walk a lot sometimes.
Yeah. But now here's the deal. So Browning and Winchester, they're researching all this stuff, and they're saying, well, what can we come up with that is not a 300 Win mag or a Weatherby mag that has all this recoil, but that kills animals as good as a 300 Win? What is a gun that we can shoot light recoil that's bigger and badder than a 6.5 Creedmoor, because people have said it's not a good killing round, and they introduced a gun this past year called a 6.8 Western, and me and Cole shot it this last year and been, the gun nuts that we're skeptical of any gun immediately when it comes out until we put our hands on it, shoot it, do everything ourselves. Well, this 6.8 Western is a 270 bullet. It's shooting a 270 caliber bullet out of what looks to me like, and I hadn't done research to do the number, it looks like a 300 short mag.
What's a 270 short?
Got, right?
It's
neck down.
It's basically a 270 short mag with a different shoulder angle.
So you can load a heavier.
You can load a heavier and a longer bullet with a better ballistic coefficient. I did use some homework there. You can compare 6.8 Western. So that 6.8 Western, I used the Browning Long Range Pro with the 175 grain Sierra Game King versus the 270 short mag. I did a 145 grain in the Hornady Precision Hunter, which was the highest ballistic coefficient and there may be another one out there. I didn't spend I looked at the main manufacturers. That was the best ballistic coefficient in a hunting bullet I could find for a 270 short mag. The highest ballistic coefficient was in that one right there versus that 6.8 Western. And I mean, we talked about killing energy. Kyle, you can
that 6.8 .617 versus .536. And then if you're talking about ballistic coefficients, anytime you get over that 0.6, that's a spectacular bullet.
So if somebody comes in and says, "What is that?" If new to a 6.8 and says, "What is the closest thing to a 6.8?" Are you going to say a 270, a 270 short mag, or a 6? What?
Well, here's how.
What other caliber or what?
I've been trying to figure out how to redneck terminology that, and I hadn't quite got there yet.
All right, I think I can do it right here. Here's how it stacks up against all these other rounds. So it has 18% more. A 6.8 Western has 18% more energy than a 7mm Remington mag shooting a 160 grain bullet at 500 yards. It has the same energy as a 300 short mag with a 180 grain bullet at 500 yards, but it has 14% less recoil. It has 6% more energy than a 300 Win mag 180 grain bullet at 500 yards with 16% less recoil. So it's got more energy, less recoil, and better ballistics. The short action compared to a 7 mag or a 300 Win mag makes the guns 5 ounces or so lighter. It's got a very similar trajectory as a 7mm Rim mag and a 300 Win mag and a 270 short
That's
mag.
impressive, yeah.
All wrapped up in that one gun. So what you got better energy at 500 yards than a 7 mag, a 300 Win mag with less recoil and pretty much the same ballistics. It's a pretty special gun.
It's pretty intriguing and nothing else.
Yeah, and just like I said, I printed these charts off, and if y'all want to study this or do this, I get off in a rabbit hole. I want to see what the energy is on freaking everything. That the Hornady Ballistic Calculator, you get all this info off all these manufacturers' websites on their ammunition. You can plug this in and see what the energy is at each yard line. And the 6.8 Western with the Browning Long Range Pro Sierra 175 grain Game King, 1774 foot-pounds per energy at 500 versus 7 mag. I did a Federal Premium 168 grain Burger Hybrid Hunter, which is a great bullet. It's 1659. So you're
to be honest with you, if you would have told me that on that set, I would have probably said, nah.
Yeah, I would have guessed no way.
Now,
7 mags.
Now I'm sure depending on in the Federal Terminal Ascent is what I pulled up in a 300 Win mag, which is like a 200 and
it's got to be.
It's a 200 grain bullet, so it's a heavier bullet. So, but still, the energy is 1970, so it's not that much more energy with a lot heavier bullet and a lot more thump to that shoulder.
A lot of recoil coming
and a heavier rifle.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's a gun that we shot this past year, and we like it, and it's kind of like the fix-all where I don't have to shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor and have Jordan make fun of me, and I don't have to blow my eardrums out anymore because I don't have to shoot it with a muzzle brake.
What longest kill, confirmed kill with 6.8 Western?
Well, I shot a hog at 300 yards with it, dropped him dead in his tracks.
But honestly, filming, we don't shoot that far.
Yeah,
anymore. We shoot.
No,
we get past 350, we start moving on the deer.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Texas where we hunt, if it's past 400 yards, to get quality video, we got to get closer. We need it to be within 250 and under.
Right. We wouldn't care if we weren't trying to make it look good for somebody watching it.
Right.
But I killed 180 something inch deer at 400 yards a few years ago. Probably the least watched episode we've ever done with that big deer.
So excited, but still sick in his stomach too at the same time because it was just one of those deals.
And but hog at 300, we killed a big mule deer with it, 200 yards. I shot a big body white-tailed coals at 100 yards, and it's done very well.
We didn't get it till about halfway through the season last year, so.
Check back next year. They'll have some more stories for you.
Yeah. Forget.
And are y'all getting any in? I know you got 6.8 bullets in.
We've got ammo. We've got ammo. We've got the guns on order, Browning and Winchester. and we haven't gotten any yet.
Are they the only two making the 6.8 at this moment?
That I've seen, yes. That's the only gun manufacturer I've seen, and the only ammo manufacturer I've seen.
I do know it's the only ammo. It's Browning ammo.
It's Browning and Winchester, but a lot of people are asking about it. A lot of people are ready for it, and I think it'll take off. And
may not be a 6.5 craze, but it may be something.
For sure. We'll take a quick break and we'll wrap this up.
Sounds good.
What is it that distinguishes the best? A wanting to defy reason, disrupt industry, and captivate the imagination. To be better, you should look further, dream bigger. Aspire by Bandit. Superior.
Welcome back to the Simmons Sporting Goods All Things Hunting Podcast. This is podcast number 9. We've been talking about a lot of rifle stuff, telling stories and ballistics, and the gun nuts have been listening. The bow guys, they tuned out a long time ago, but we're still talking about guns. And I'm gonna go around the table and ask everyone if I'm going elk hunting or I'm shooting a 300-pound whitetail or 250-pound whitetail long way off tomorrow, what gun are you shooting? Start with Cole.
Well, like we said, I was going to shoot that 6.8 this year, and I hadn't shot it enough, but the numbers look great. But I'm probably going to shoot a 300 win, and I just am, just because
historically that's what you'd be shooting.
I like it. I'm going to shoot a 300 win for both elk and a whitetail.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going off, especially on an elk hunt or somewhere we're long range, and I'm gonna Tommy Topper you with a little Magnum-itis here, and I'm gonna go with 3378 with a 220
and
something
half the people
grain
listening
bullet.
don't even know what that is, but
Hey,
go ahead.
It's slinging a big
Caleb's
nasty
gonna
hunk
be
of
ringing
lead.
too like
Well,
mine.
all right, what it is,
I want you to tell us what
it is a 378 Weatherby neck down to 30 caliber.
That's a bad son of a gun.
And it is a big. It costs about $10 every time you squeeze trigger. But hey, like you go on that elk hunt, whatever, that is a small fraction of your hunt. And I want to make sure. Well, if you come in the store, there's a full body mount elk in velvet right at the base of the stairs. Very impressive. Was killed by Mr. Joe Farr a couple years back out in Utah, and he took that elk with a 3378 at 465 yards. Elk went less than 40 yards. He watched him drop. Watched him drop through his scope.
And that's worth every dime you ever spent.
Absolutely,
when you kill that. Because I mean, realistically, not everybody can go elk hunting that many times.
Hey, I'm either going big or I'm gonna stay home. Mm-hmm. And you hear people say I killed an elk with 6.5 Creedmoor at 600-700 yards, and it can be done.
It can be done.
But it ain't gonna be done by me.
Now, I don't know what Jordan's gonna say because
what
he
you
shoots
shooting
about
deer
3
with?
different guns.
Hold on, what you shooting deer with, though, Caleb?
Huh?
What are you shooting deer with? Same gun?
Man, if I'm going off somewhere long ways where I could potentially kill I say that. I mean, I killed a 216-inch deer, in Texas this year, 6.5 Creedmoor. Didn't have any problem with it. So it depends on how far I think I'm gonna have to shoot. If there's a chance at taking a good deer at over 300 yards, which is out west or up where y'all are in Oklahoma and stuff, there is, then yeah, I'm taking 300 Win Mag or 3378 or something. Belted Magnum, 30 caliber, and I'm gonna shoot over a 200 grain bullet.
What about you, Jordan?
I've kind of narrowed my gun collection down to 3 calibers. Deer hunt with the 6.5 PRC, pretty much exclusively these days. I shoot it suppressed. My wife can shoot it, no recoil. I mean, awesome shooting gun, very comfortable with it. If I'm not shooting that, I'm taking a 28 Nosler, or if I'm going elk hunting, I would shoot that 180 grain bullet, or I'm gonna go up to the 300 Win Mag. I mean, that's tried and true. I think you can get off an airplane just about any city in America, probably find a 300 Win Mag bullet. 28 Noslers, 6.5 PRC,
26 Noslers, you can't find.
Yeah, I mean that stuff can get fine. So that's a lot of been. My dad always said that.
We didn't even get a Nosler for that reason.
My dad always said that, man. 30-06, 270. We give them heck. They're old, outdated, but you can walk in, anywhere that sells bullets in the United States of America, and probably find the 270, a 30-06, and a 300 Win Mag.
That's a good point.
What about you, Maddie?
Man, I'm probably going to shoot what Jordan and my dad tell me to shoot. They're going to go on their roads, and they sit around and reload bullets all the time.
Maddie sits around and fletches his arrows, so that's good too. He
I do
does.
fletch my own arrows.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Tunes his own duck
sometimes.
calls.
Yeah,
tune
and that's
my own
He's
great,
got
too.
more duck calls than any human I've ever seen.
Hey, that's all right too.
So yeah, I'm gonna tote probably whatever they're not toting. That's what I've been pretty good at my whole life, is going in there and just grabbing something and kind of, is this sided in? Yeah, all right. And dig out. That's kind of my
I noticed
style.
there for a while, before Jordan was married and had kids, he had Maddie. They'd come in the store. Maddie'd come in the store, just kind of BS and hang around. When Jordan came in with him, Maddie'd be picking stuff out. He'd have it all piled up at the
Heck
counter
yeah,
for
it's your
Jordan to
big
pay
brother.
for.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Some things never change.
Yeah.
I've told
Hey,
you,
I got a little
Hey,
brother. I know.
I can't
There's no
tell you-
shame in my game.
I can't tell you.
No.
I can't tell you how many times though. Me and Maddie have loaded up. My mom would let me drive to the deer camp. It was about 10 miles down about 15 miles down some old back roads, and I was not 16. And we would beg, and boy, she'd let me go. We'd load up. We'd go to the deer camp all weekend by ourselves, basically. I mean, I've shot. I was probably right at 5-year age difference in us, and I was probably 12 maybe, and you were 7. Maybe I was 10 and he was 5. I don't know. We were little, in a single man tripod, and he's asleep in my lap.
I've got.
And my dad told me, "Hey boy, look, at this 5 o'clock on the dot, this big doe's gonna come out. I want you to shoot her. Your papa needs some meat." And I said, "All right, I can handle that." And I ain't gonna lie, I was scared, little kid. I didn't like going out there. Coyotes went to holler, and I was headed to the house.
That's why he took me.
So I knew
He was the one that got down at prime time because it was
Always.
getting dark in the evening.
I'm
But
not
he
gonna
would
lie.
stay
He was that
late
guy.
if I was there, because
That's why he likes to ride
me.
around in the truck in Oklahoma and
Yeah.
hunt as a
There you
party
go.
hunter.
I knew I could outrun him. So anyway, going back to my story here, we're in that one-man tripod, and he's asleep in my lap. He literally got his head laid up on the side of the stand, and he's asleep. And sure enough, here comes that doe, and she's out there eating in that line. I'm like, oh, so I'm waking him up, and and he goes to waking up. And he doesn't, he's groggy, and he's looking around, and I'm trying to aim at this deer, and he's on one leg, and I've got one hand on the gun trying to aim at the other one, and I mean, I'm going from her eyeballs to her hindquarters. I mean, that gun, and finally, I thought I was settled in, I just squeezed the trigger, and she just hit the deck, and I said, my goodness. I mean, I was aiming at her shoulder. I said, we did it. We were all high-fiving and all excited. And my dad, about that time, we didn't, this was pre-cell phones, but we had those little Motorola walkie-talkies.
yeah.
Talkies, man.
And he heard that shot, and here he come. What'd you do? Did you get her? And I said, yeah, Daddy, we dropped her dead. Well, it wasn't 30 minutes later. It was getting dark. Here come Dad on a four-wheeler up, and we getting down out of the deer stand. And we walked down there, and he shined a flashlight on the door. He said, "Where'd you hit this deer?" And I said, "Daddy, I aimed right at her shoulder." And I had ear holder.
Oh.
And it just shows you sometimes it's no matter what you shoot, what bullet, what gun,
luck.
it's better to be lucky than good, sometimes.
100%.
But one thing I'll get at, and I think that it's almost the common denominator in this room with all four of us, is that we had a father or a father figure that let us shoot.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah,
Amen.
that's where I
The
learned that.
guys that I know that didn't get to shoot,
They don't care about it.
they don't care,
Yeah.
man.
I grew up on a farm, and we would be riding through the farm during deer season, just doing whatever. Dad'd be picking cotton or something. You see a deer way over there. How far you think that is, Dad? He'd rattle something off, like he'd lean there, throw that jacket on the hood, and put it right on her back. Put it right on her backbone and squeeze the trigger. Sometimes you hit them, sometimes
We
you
didn't
wouldn't.
we didn't get into misses. Shoot, I've missed 5
Oh,
times
my
with a
gosh,
deer
there was a
before.
lot of
I mean,
them.
we didn't get into that. That's for another day.
Well,
What about you, Kyle? You going elk hunting? What are you taking? What you shooting?
Right now, I'm taking a 28 Nosler because I haven't had enough chance to shoot that 6.8 Western to really test it out. But we're fixing to shoot some big 300-pound hogs at a long way off. We're gonna shoulder shoot them and just give everything a good work over. And most likely, I know it's going to perform right, and I'll probably end up shooting a 6.8 Western, everything from squirrels to elk. But right now, I'm shooting a 28 Nosler. If I went elk hunting tomorrow, and I'm shooting 6.8 Western at deer.
And I guess another reason, back to the bigger caliber, even at a whitetail somewhere where you can, a long ways, the longer that deer is, the farther away that deer is, and the bigger that deer is, the more subject you are to make a bad shot. I think all of us can probably agree with that. The bigger deer, you're going to get shook up. You got buck failure. That's why we do it. If you stop getting shook up, you might as well quit. And the farther away it is, and conditions, wind, whatever, you make a bad shot with that bigger bullet and more energy, and you're more subject to recover your deer and successful recovery. So
I've been putting together the episode where I killed that big deer last year that scored right at 200, and the funniest part about that whole scene is Cole's like, "You're shaking the stand." You're shaking the camera. He goes, "Stop! You're shaking the camera."
Making me look like I'm having bad footage on this camera, and I'm like, "Quit shaking."
Yeah, and then I made a bad shot. I say
one is about 19 degrees with snow everywhere, but that wasn't the reason why he was shaking.
Hey, that deer's on the wall.
He's on the wall.
That's all
I
that
say I
matters.
never shot him. Jordan says a gut shot him. We still disagree to this day. But
No
it is what it
punch
is.
shot.
That's like hitting.
The old punch deluxe, buddy.
That's like hitting a home run. You can hit one that goes 550 feet, or it just scrapes the wall. It scores. It scores the same. That deer's dead and on the wall, and that's all that matters.
And I know a lot of people may listen to this, and we're about to be done. And these man, we've all shot these lower calibers and killed probably more deer than we did with these bigger calibers.
Absolutely.
But when you get more knowledge and you hunt a little bit more and hunt places where you shoot further, man, it does pay to up a little bit. But man, ain't nothing wrong with what y'all
With
shot
the
243.
270s
The
and
243, the
308, 30 man, there's been more, like y'all said, there's been more deer killed with a 270 and a 30-06 than maybe any gun out there. So
100%.
And I will say this: the 6.5 Creedmoor tally is adding up because y'all are selling a bunch of them, and there's a lot of people that are shooting that round right now. So
outsells other rifles almost 10 to 1.
That's crazy.
And the PRC's coming on. The 300 Win Mag's still popular. The 308's still popular. 270 Short Mag's still popular. And there's a lot of buzz about this 6.8 Western. I know I've been on a couple hunting trips this spring with Kyle where he shot it and been impressed with it, and people are asking about it, so I think it'll come on and be a strong caliber.
I'll say the number one bullet when we work up here, and I work part-time, that the number one bullet asked for, in my opinion, is a 308. The number one bullet asked for.
One of my best friends is a killing fool with a
Hey, it was a sniper gun. I mean,
Absolutely.
I killed a bunch of deer
It
with
is
308.
slow and accurate.
But man,
bad
I
to the
will not
bone.
know. Yeah, I'm with
So
you.
I guess kind of Cole's points. There's a lot of great rounds out there, and main thing is learn what you're going to shoot. And
Find one that fits your situation.
one that fits you,
That
one
you're
you're comfortable with.
Yep.
Learn it. Learn what your energy is at different yard lines and that sort of thing, and put some good glass on. If you need help with that, come see me. I can fix you up with all that, and we're gonna get out of here and check us out next week.
Yeah,
See
we
y'all later.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
appreciate it. Every 2 weeks we're gonna be airing one new one out. I think next week we're gonna talk a little bit of deer management and duck management and what you can do in the summertime to kind of help you out.